What if the greatest offering ever made to the divine wasn't made by a king? What if it wasn't gold, wasn't a crown, wasn't even food that filled a stomach, but a handful of grain that emptied four? This is a story from the Mahabharata, and it asks a question that still unsettles us today. What truly makes a sacrifice great? The great war of Kurukshetra had ended. Dharma had triumphed over adharma, but victory left deep wounds in the hearts of the Pandavas. It was then, guided by Lord Krishna himself, that Dharmaraj Yudhishthira decided to perform something extraordinary. The Ashwamedha Yajna, a sacred horse sacrifice for the welfare of the entire world and the restoration of Dharma. The grandeur of it was dazzling. Sages, scholars, kings, and saints arrived from every corner of the land. Granaries stood open. Gold, cattle, and cloth were given away without end. The glory of the yajna echoed in every direction. It felt to everyone watching like the greatest sacrifice the world had ever seen. And slowly, quietly, pride began to take root in people's hearts. Surely, they whispered, this must be the greatest yajna in the world. At that very moment, the divine decided the assembly needed a lesson no wealth could teach. As the final offerings were made, a strange mongoose wandered into the yajna grounds. Half of its body gleamed like pure gold. The other half was ordinary, just like any mongoose. It rolled in the ashes and leftover grain of the sacrifice, then stood and spoke with a faint smile. O king, this magnificent Ashwamedha Yajna of yours does not equal even the value of one handful of barley grain given by a poor Brahmin in Kurukshetra. The entire assembly fell silent. How could this be? How could such a vast sacrifice be compared and found lesser to a poor man's small gift? Yudhishthira, ever humble, asked gently, O wondrous creature, why do you say such a thing? And the mongoose began to tell its story. In Kurukshetra, there once lived a Brahmin family of great poverty. They survived through gleaning, gathering the grains left behind in the fields after harvest. They had no wealth, no savings, only unwavering faith in God and deep devotion to Dharma. Then came a terrible famine. For days, not a single grain touched their home. Hunger weakened their bodies, but their faith never wavered. Finally, after great struggle, they managed to gather a small amount of barley flour. They offered it first to God. Then the Brahmin, his wife, his son, and his daughter-in-law, 4 people, sat down to share it. And just then, a hungry guest appeared at their door. Without a moment's hesitation, the Brahmin gave his own share to the guest. The guest ate, but his hunger remained. So the Brahmin's wife gave her share. Then the son gave his. And finally, without any hesitation at all, the daughter-in-law gave the very last of her food. Now there was nothing left in the house. Not one grain. The entire family remained hungry, so that their guest could be fully satisfied. The mongoose continued. That guest was no ordinary traveler. He was Dharma himself, come to test the family. And he was so moved by their selfless sacrifice, their hospitality, their unshaken devotion, that he granted the entire family a place in the divine realm. This was no ordinary gift. They had not given from their surplus. They had surrendered their very last means of survival. And that is exactly why their offering became eternal. Then Yudhishthira asked, "O Mongoose, how did half your body turn to gold?" The Mongoose replied, "I was present in that hut when the miracle happened. I rolled in a few grains of barley flour scattered on the ground, and half my body turned to gold. Ever since, I have wandered from yajna to yajna, hoping to find that same selfless sacrifice again, so that the rest of my body might turn to gold too. I came here today as well. I rolled in the remains of this great yajna, but nothing changed, because though much was given here, the selfless surrender of that poor family is nowhere to be found." The entire assembly fell silent. Everyone understood. The value of an offering to God lies not in its size, but in the sacrifice, devotion, and love behind it. A gift given with pride, however grand, remains small in truth. But an offering made with love, humility, and selfless devotion, even a single handful of grain, becomes infinite in its glory. If this story moved something in you, let it sit for a while before you scroll away. This is Light in Heart, stories that awaken the soul.